Topping today's news, the government says the U.S. dock workers' strike not impacting shipping to the country. Eleuthera residents get the relief with water supply that they need. Bahamasair union threatening industrial action, and the Grand Bahama Port Authority suspends review of the power company's proposed rate increase. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jcn News Oct. This is your JCN Evening News. Definitely a pleasure to have you join us. The Bahamas government has officially said the dock workers' strike in the United States is not expected to have any significant impact on the Bahamas. In a press statement released yesterday by the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, the Ministry of Energy and Transport and the Ministry of Economic Affairs say they have been actively monitoring the recent port workers' strike affecting the east and Gulf coasts of the United States, involving members of the International Longshoremen's Association. You're looking at images from those protests. The statement said after engaging with key food suppliers in the Bahamas, including SuperValue, Tropical Shipping, and AML Foods, the government can confirm that the strike has not affected the food supply chain and there is no disruption in the availability of food products in the Bahamas. The statement adds that the Davis administration is continuously in communication with trade partners to ensure the supply chain remains stable and that they will keep a close watch on any further developments. Residents of Harbor Island and mainland Eleuthera have endured years of poor quality and inconsistent water supplies, so much so that in August, residents on Harbor Island took to the streets in protest for improvements. Well, today in the House of Assembly, Clay Sweeting, the Member of Parliament for South and Central Eleuthera and the Minister responsible for Public Works and Utilities, updated House members on the progress that has been made to improve the water supply for Eleutherians.
BPL and water and sewage teams are working very hard to ensure that we implement permanent solutions to these issues. And I think as of this afternoon or tomorrow, the 1 million-gallon water tank in Governor's Harbor will be on stream. The tank is filled with water to provide solutions to the people in central Eleuthera. The water tank in Harbor Island, the member for North Eleuthera, I think that tank should be filled with water by now too. So these are permanent solutions, Madam Speaker, not band-aids on these long-listing issues.
Mr. Sweeting also announced that paving at the Rock Sound Airport runway is underway. Several weeks ago, there were some complaints by some airlines that threatened to suspend flights to Rock Sound due to the poor condition of the runway and the dangers it presented. Members of the Airline Airport Allied Workers Union, AAAWU, are threatening to strike as talks of possible outsourcing of the Bahamasair ramp operators to Nassau Flight Services have begun. Union members recently received letters detailing the amount they would be compensated while requiring a signature of agreement in the efforts to avoid facing redundancy. As soon as Friday, they needed to have those letters signed. This comes after a meeting that was held back in July with Bahamasair's management, where union members presented them with the correct amounts owed to employees as outlined in the company's industrial agreement. While outside the House of Assembly today, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Chester Cooper, commented on the threat of industrial action by Bahamasair employees.
I had been advised that there had been ongoing continuous conversations with the union. There had been some reconciliation of some employees' accounts, and the process had been moving forward very smoothly. Up to the press conference yesterday, no issue had been elevated to me as the minister, and therefore I cannot comment on the substance of what their concerns might be. I maintain that we believe that we are doing what is in the best interests of both entities and what is in the best interests of the Bahamas.
When asked why the decision was made to merge the employees, Mr. Cooper says the decision was made in the best interest of both companies as well as the Bahamian people that heavily subsidize Bahamasair each year.
Taxpayers. We have two set of employees doing exactly the same thing, and in our wisdom we determined that there is a better way to do this, and we can redeploy the staff to make other areas of both entities more efficient. So this is sound governance principles being recommended. We respect that the union and the employees are stakeholders, and we believe that they also want what is best for these entities and what's best for the country. So I'm confident that clear heads will prevail. Whatever the issues are will be discussed, and I'm confident will be resolved.
Members of the union called an emergency meeting scheduled for this afternoon to devise a plan on the way forward. To the delight of many residents on Grand Bahama, the Grand Bahama Port Authority announced on Tuesday that it has suspended its review of the Grand Bahama Power Company's proposed 6.3% base rate increase for 3 years beginning in January of 2025. The Port Authority said in a press release that the current unreliable electricity service by the Grand Bahama Power Company is a large part of the reason for suspending the review. Opposition leader Michael Pintard, a resident of Grand Bahama and the Member of Parliament for Marco City, was asked for his thoughts on this latest development.
We've had a chance in the Free National Movement to meet with the Grand Bahama Power Company, with the one of the groups that assert that they are the regulator, GBPA, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and we've met with ERCA. In all three cases, we've made the point that conditions are too tough in Grand Bahama for both residents and businesses, and that they ought not, none of them ought to continue to pursue the proposed increase by 6.3%. So this recent press release by GBPA is in part consistent with what we and others have been advocating, that they ought not proceed with this. But they should go further than simply suspending it, because the reasons they have given are reasons we have all outlined, that it is unconscionable at a time when you are providing less consistent service that you would actually contemplate increasing the rate. And prior to them even pursuing a rate increase, the cost of power in both in New Providence and in Grand Bahama is entirely too high.
The Grand Bahama Port Authority Regulatory Chairman Sarah St. George said the review of a rate increase will remain suspended until the Grand Bahama Power Company improves its service and power reliability. Meanwhile, the Utilities Regulations and Competition Authority, ERCA, maintains that it is the regulatory body for the Grand Bahama Power Company, and only it has the authority to grant or deny a rate increase, something to which the Grand Bahama Port Authority does not agree. And finally, in this segment, today, police are still looking for the lone gunman and his accomplice who shot dead a 27-year-old father on Tuesday as he held one of his children in his arms. Police say it was around 3 p.m. on Tuesday when the victim arrived at a residence on Boswaina Court, that's in Flamingo Gardens, and he got out of his vehicle, and the gunman emerged from a white Japanese car and shot him multiple times. He had his 8-month-old daughter in his arms at the time. She was not harmed. Neither was his 6-year-old daughter, who was in the car that he arrived in. Police want your help in finding the cold-hearted killer. Call Crime Stoppers anonymously in Miami at 328-TIPS, 328-8477. Also from the crime beat, a 33-year-old man has been left in critical condition and a 23-year-old female nursing a leg injury. They were both shot shortly after 10 p.m. on Tuesday evening while standing in front of a residence on Saffron Street in Pinewood Gardens, when the occupants of a black Japanese vehicle approached and the rear seat passenger discharged multiple gunshots in their direction. The man was shot to his upper body. The woman was shot to her left leg. They were both taken to hospital in a private vehicle. Police investigations are ongoing. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.